But this was a rigged decision right from day one. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people.
Guilty on all counts. Today, Donald Trump became the first former U.S. president to be tried or convicted in a criminal case after being found guilty on 34 counts in his hush money trial.
It's also the first of the 4 indictments against former President Trump to actually reach trial. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shannon Heggie.
I'm Mike Montecalvo. The former president was convicted of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to protect his 2016 campaign from news of an alleged affair.
And we have a lot to cover tonight, including local reaction and further analysis on what this means for the former president's campaign. We
start with Michael George, who has the details on this historic day.
Moments after his historic conviction, former President Donald Trump denounced the verdict, finding him guilty of all 34 counts in connection with a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
People gathered here outside the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse expressed their opinions about this history-making verdict.
And just to see that, a president can be found guilty, a president can be held accountable, I think is an incredible show of democracy.
This is political prosecution, and there's absolutely nothing behind this case. And I hope they appeal it.
During the trial, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, helped prosecutors draw a link between Trump and charges he falsified business records to disguise reimbursements for a $130,000 payment. Prosecutors argued that was to buy Daniels silence about an alleged 2006 sexual encounter with Trump. Trump denies the encounter ever took place. In closing arguments, Trump's lead attorney called Cohen the MVP of liars.
They knew that they didn't always have perfect evidence, but every moment they tried to say, we're backing it up. You don't just have to believe Michael Cohen. Look at what everybody else is telling you as well.
The judge set Trump's sentencing for July 11th, 4 days before the Republican National Convention.
And our team coverage continues now with 12 News reporter Alex Torres-Perez.
She has more with how people in Rhode Island are reacting to the verdict. Alex?
Everyone I spoke with was shocked because they weren't expecting the verdict to come so soon after deliberations started. But when it comes to how people are feeling about former President Donald Trump now being a convicted felon, well, that depends on who you're talking to. Despite being found guilty of 34 felony charges, Trump maintains his innocence, calling the trial rigged, something many of his supporters also believe.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he committed any crime. What crime did he commit?
But those on the other side of the aisle disagree.
It's nonsense. It's fake news. It's more of the Trump rhetoric. I think justice was done.
Now all eyes are on what happens next, as the next presidential election gets closer and Trump could still be in the midst of a legal battle. What happens then?
No one knows. I mean, we've never been in this situation before.
Some Democrats fear for the worst.
I hope that it doesn't lead to another insurrection.
But some Trump supporters believe the conviction may bring the former president back to the White House, a statement that is being echoed at his local campaign stores.
I'm probably going to wind up doing good business over here at the store over the next week or so. I think people are going to be coming out in droves.
The Rhode Island Secretary of State told me he doesn't believe the verdict will impact elections and that he will be doing his job to make sure laws are being followed, to make sure elections in Rhode Island are fair and secure, to make your voice heard. Reporting in Providence, I'm Alex Torres-Perez, 12 News.
Our in-depth coverage continues now with a closer look at today's verdict and how it could affect the November election. And for that, we're joined by 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi. First, let's be clear to viewers that Trump can still run despite today's verdict.
That's right, Mike. Nothing in the Constitution prevents someone with a criminal conviction from running for president or from serving as president, for that matter. And Trump, of course, hopes he will be able to overturn this either in New York or at the U.S. Supreme Court and therefore not remain convicted.
You're watching this unfold today, Ted, and it's really an unprecedented situation.
Yeah, and Mike, I'd caution viewers not to believe any political pundits who claim they know what is going to happen with this case. We've never had a president face a criminal conviction in the heat of a campaign, and a former president for that matter. And we just don't know. We've seen polling numbers that suggest perhaps some voters could turn against Trump who were with him before, now that he's convicted. But we also know many Republicans say they think the underlying facts of this case aren't legitimate, and therefore this should not be held against him the way maybe a different kind of criminal conviction would.
And that's going to be debated at coffee shops
sure.
Tomorrow morning. But we do actually have some numbers about what local voters think of the case.
Yeah,
right?
actually, Mike, UNH, the University of New Hampshire, just released a survey of Rhode Island voters. And one of the questions they asked was whether they thought Trump's prosecution in New York was legitimate or politically motivated. 58% of Rhode Island voters told the pollsters they think this case is legally legitimate, while 38% said they think the charges are politically motivated, and 4% said they don't know or are not sure. And I just point out, Mike, that's not too far off from what we're expecting the presidential results to be based on previous elections. So this may just be a classic Republican-Democrat split.
And this is going to keep going on, so we'll
month
follow
after
that
month
soon. All right. 12 News Politics Editor Ted Nesi, thanks.
Good to be here.
And please stay with 12 News for continuing coverage of today's verdict. Right now on WPRI.com, we have former President Trump's reaction in full. And be sure to tune to 12 News this morning starting at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow. Our political analyst Joe Fleming will be on to give more insight into what this means for this year's election.